Last month's deadly flooding in Texas Hill Country killed more than 130 people, and 3 are still missing. While residents were fast asleep, more than a summer's worth of rain fell on the area. In an instant, the calm and pristine Guadalupe River transformed into a roaring train of fast-moving water filled with destructive debris. At certain sections, the river went from 3 feet to nearly 30 feet deep, engulfing homes, cars, and everything else in its path. But as the sun came up and the damage came into focus, the question on everyone's lips wasn't what happened, but how it happened so fast, and why was there little to no warning. One person who's an expert on these events is Creek Stewart, a disaster and emergency preparedness instructor. He says flash floods are often misunderstood because they don't show up until it's already too late.
Flash flooding happens at times for people when weather seems perfect where they're at, because what's happening to create a flash flood actually happens upstream, where it might be completely sunny and normal and a beautiful day at a particular location. Storms and extreme rainfall upstream can send a flash flood downstream in a matter of seconds and minutes, and it can really catch people off guard. And there's a huge misconception about how fast that can actually happen.
Flash floods are the deadliest form of weather in the U.S., killing more people each year than hurricanes, tornadoes, or extreme heat, according to data from the National Weather Service.
In this case in Texas, and in the case of many flash floods, it's a combination of things that create the perfect storm for a disastrous flash flood. It's not only the ground condition, where the ground condition is perfect for water to travel on the ground and not saturate the ground. Oftentimes this can be caused by a prolonged period of drought. And then we've got extreme rainfall upstream. And when you combine those two things, you have a situation where that extreme rainfall funnels. It travels very quickly along the ground and along the slopes that lead into the valleys, these creeks and streams. And it can happen very, very fast.
In Texas, many of those swept away were staying in RVs, campers, and cabins built right along the river. This was on land that's flooded before and, according to FEMA maps, will likely flood again. Experts say the real danger wasn't just the storm, but the unchecked development in high-risk areas. For years, officials allowed structures to pop up in designated flood zones with little to no oversight. There are also questions about why there was no physical flood warning system along the Guadalupe River. If there was, a loud siren would have been triggered once water levels reached a certain point. According to an investigation by the Houston Chronicle, there was a physical flood warning system in place in the late 1980s, but it had since fallen into disrepair. Texas lawmakers are still questioning why the local river authority decided against fixing the system that would have saved hundreds who were asleep, and sadly, this is the case in many parts of the country. Regions where warning systems are outdated, underfunded, or non-existent. While it's hard to control public policy, one thing listeners can do is research. Before booking a trip or traveling somewhere new, Stewart says it's worth checking if the region is prone to flooding.
Asking locals or reading signage or even checking the FEMA flood maps of the area that you're going is really important. It's really important if you're in an area prone to floods, which is pretty much anywhere in the valley of a creek, river, or stream, to scout the terrain during the daytime, because oftentimes flash floods happen at night. And if you have to evacuate in the middle of the night and you don't know where you're going, the situation is exponentially more dangerous. So scouting the area for high terrain in advance, if you've chosen to camp nearby a stream or a river, is really, really important so that you know where to go in the middle of the night. And I would say for everyone, a required piece of kit at home and in the wilderness is an NOAA weather radio, so that you can keep alert and abreast of events like this.
These weather radio alerts by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration can give key minute-to-minute updates. If you have a smartphone, you'll automatically get wireless emergency notifications sent via text. You can also download the FEMA app to receive additional real-time weather and emergency alerts for up to 5 locations. Stewart also breaks down some of the physical signs that a flash flood is imminent.
Heavy rainfall is obviously one, but oftentimes this heavy rainfall is happening upstream where you can't even see it. Water discoloration is another that you'd be looking for. The water suddenly changes from clear or not running at all to muddy and murky. This is oftentimes accompanied by debris. If you start seeing debris in a waterway, then you realize that the water is climbing and it's picking up that debris on the edges of the waterway upstream, and it's carrying that debris downstream. So that's a really important signal.
If you're in a home or cabin that's even somewhat near water, get out immediately and get to the highest nearby ground. Stewart says that being indoors doesn't guarantee safety, and if you're driving, it doesn't take much water to turn a road into a death trap.
Just 6 inches of water can stall out a car, and 12 inches, which is only a foot, can start to move and float a car downstream. And you do not want to be in a car floating downstream in the middle of a raging river. That is probably the worst place possible to be in conditions like that.
If the water's rising at your trap, try to exit through the windows, not the doors. The pressure may make it hard to push a door open, and letting in more water could sink the vehicle faster. If you don't have one already, buy an emergency tool like a seatbelt cutter or a window punch that'll break a car window if you're ever trapped. But if you do make it out and the water still takes you, what then? What do you do if you're caught in a fast current?
If you don't have a flotation aid, you want to look around for something floating, whether it's a log or whether it's a cluster of debris. The current is so dangerous and can pull you under just like a live animal underneath of the water. The force is impossible to fight. And so anything that's floating that you can grab onto and potentially float on top downstream, you want to be looking for trees that would be sticking out of the water, structures that are sticking out of the water that you might be able to latch onto. You're only going to be able to fight the river for so long. Even the most fit and advanced swimmer can only fight those raging currents for so long, and before it's just going to wear you out and suck you under. And so you've got to grab onto something. And then your only option is just to pray.
It's a scenario no one wants to imagine, being swept away alone with nothing to do but pray for survival. When that moment comes, far too many aren't ready, and it brings into focus why preparation and awareness matter, especially as these disasters become more widespread and destructive. To learn more about flash flood safety and our guest, Creek Stewart, head to viewpointsradio.org. This segment was written by our executive producer, Amira Zaberi. I'm Gary Price.